You get heaven because you're saved, but you get rewarded because you're a servant. He says, you accepted me when you were 10, you're now 70. Let's discuss 60 years using the time and the talents and the treasures that he has entrusted to you for his glory, to advance his kingdom, for the benefit of others, to his glory. That's what he credits. Jesus Christ speaks to why having a future perspective, an eternal perspective, is absolutely critical for your earthly life now. And one of the ways he would teach us about this is through a story that the Bible, the New Testament, the Gospels call parables. So Jesus wanted to explain to his disciples, both then and now, both there and here, how they were to function during this interim period between the king leaving and the king returning. During this time of rejection, he wanted to teach them how to live now in light of his return. Since he has not yet returned, we are in this period of time between his first coming and his second coming. And so the story, the parable, applies to you and me. Jesus says that a nobleman was going away, referring to himself, and he called 10 of his servants. And he told his servants, I'm leaving, but I want to give each of you 10 minas. A mina is an amount of money. He says, I'm going to give you each 10 minas during my absence, and during the time I'm not here, your job is to do business till I return. That's your job in this gap between my first coming and second coming. In our case, between our salvation and our trip to heaven, I'm going to give you 10 minutes and I want you to do business till I come. So during this time when you are waiting for me to return, I don't want you to be passive. I don't want you to be aimless. I want you to get some business done until I come. And so he calls the servants, and it says he gave each of them 10 minas. That's an amount of money. It's like me saying I gave every person here 10 $100 bills, so that every person in the audience, which by the way is not going to happen, but I gave every person in the audience $1,000, so that everybody walked out with $1,000. You had 10 minas or 10 $100 bills. Everybody in this story has the same thing. All 10 get the 1,000, get the 10 $100 bills. They all get 10. Now this is a little different than the same concept that's told by Jesus in Matthew chapter 25. You don't have to turn there now, but in Matthew 25, verses 14 and following, Jesus tells a similar story, but with a different twist. Because in Matthew 25, when he tells the story, everybody got something different. They didn't get the same amount as in this story. So let me explain. He leaves each of them 10 minutes, and he uses the money to talk about something bigger than money. He uses minas, but he's talking about something bigger. He's talking about life. All of us have 3 of the same things. Everybody here has 3 of the very same things. What we don't have is what he talks about in Matthew 25, the same amount of the same things. We all have the same things, but we don't have it to the same degree. The first thing that all of us have is time. Now, we don't have the same amount of time. We're not all going to live to the same age, but we all have time because we're alive. With time time from a kingdom point of view, because the nobleman went away to get a kingdom, the time in the kingdom perspective is a boundary in which opportunities exist. So within this thing called tick-tock, tick-tock, time is opportunity, because you use your time to do things, to accomplish things. The second thing all of us have are talents. We have varying abilities. We don't have the same talents, but we've all been given capacity to do things for the king and for his kingdom, since the parable is about the king going to get a kingdom. We don't all have the same abilities, we don't all do the same thing, but we all have some capacity to serve the king and the kingdom. The third thing that all of us have are varying degrees of treasures, resources. Everybody doesn't make the same thing, everybody doesn't have the same amount, but we all have some level of resource. So when he speaks about giving them all the same thing, he's talking about the life he is entrusting to them, used by the illustration, that they are to do business with till he comes. To have the same thing does not equal it having the same value. You can have the same thing without it being the same value, and what changes value of the same thing is its usefulness. So you all have time. We all have talents. We all have varying amounts of treasures. But we're not all equally valuable to the kingdom when it comes to doing business till he comes. We're valuable as people, but he's not talking about our value as people. All 10 were servants. All 10 belonged to the nobleman. All 10 belonged to the master. And he says, do business till I come. Now you have to stick with me here. We're going somewhere. I'm going to entrust you with life. Physical life, but then if you're saved, spiritual life. And during this time, between your conversion and your trip to heaven, you are to be a businessman or woman. And he says, do business till I come. He's talking about kingdom business, because the master went to get a kingdom. So the king entrusts time, talents, and treasures, life, represented by the minas, in order for you to do business till I come. Now, please don't miss this. You are supposed to do the business. See, a lot of us are asking God to do business that he's waiting on us to get done. He says you are to do business until the nobleman, in the story, the king, returns. Ephesians 2, 8, and 9 puts it this way. 8 through 10 puts it this way. Verse 8 and 9 says, by grace are you saved through faith, that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not by works, so that any man should boast. That's 8 and 9. But verse 10 says, for we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which he hath created beforehand that we might walk in them. So verse 8 and 9, he says, you're saved for free by grace. But in verse 10, he says, even though you're saved for free by grace, once you're saved for work. You're saved to accomplish something for God. He calls it good works. Good works are things you do for God's glory to advance God's kingdom that benefits others in God's name. Things done for God's glory to advance God's kingdom that benefits others in God's name. Matthew 5:16. Let men see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. So God did not save you and leave you here with a certain amount of time, talents, and treasures to forget him. In fact, he left you here, and the reason he didn't take you to heaven the moment you were saved is because there was a work he expected you to do, and he calls that work business. That you and I are stewards of what we have been left with while we live here since salvation. And the job of a steward is to protect and expand the assets of another. The job of a steward is to protect and expand the assets of another. And so God is expecting that your life, time, talents, and treasures will protect and expand his kingdom purposes. That's what he's expecting. And so he's left some stuff behind, time, talents, and treasures, with which you are to pull that off. You are to accomplish that with those three areas, those minas of your life. So what happens? He's been rejected in verse 14, and therefore he's absent right now. But verse 15 says, when he returned, oh, he did come back in the story. He hasn't come back yet in our history, but he come back in the story after receiving the kingdom. He ordered, strong word, he made them. He ordered that these slaves to whom he had given the money be called to him so that he might know what business they had done. This is called accountability. The nobleman, Jesus, returns, and all of those who are his followers are called to him. And his question is, what did you do with the time, the talents, and the treasures that I left you with during my absence, that I told you to do business for me while I'm gone? The question on that day is not what did you do for you? The question on that day is what did you do, as you'll see in a moment, with what was mine on loan to you. God's time, talents, and treasures had a purpose. Do business till I come. And any businessman knows there's only one reason you do business. You do business to serve others because you're either providing a product or a service. So you're doing business to serve others in order to gain a return. Do you expect a return when you do business? Because businesses that don't get a return don't get to stay in business. So you expect a profit. You expect benefit to come to you if in fact you're doing business. While the king is gone, he has left everyone in this room who has accepted Jesus Christ a remaining amount of time, spiritually endowed talent, and a certain amount of resources, but all the same category. And he says, do business. And then he returned and he wanted to know, what kind of business did you do? This is called in 1 Corinthians 3, the judgment seat of Christ, when he will evaluate what kind of business did you do for me and the advancement of my kingdom that benefited others, for which I got the glory. The first appeared, saying, Master, your mina has made 10 minas more. And he said to him, well done, good slave, because you have been faithful in a very little thing, you are going to be an authority over 10 cities. Ooh. When the master, the king, came back, he called the first guy. He said, now I gave you 10 minutes. Show me what you got. He says, Master, you gave me 10 and I made 10 more. In other words, master, there's 100% return. I'm not just giving you back what you gave. I'm doubling what you gave me. Now here's 10 more. I expanded what you gave me. The response of the master was accolades. Well done, my good and faithful servant. I am going to put you over 10 cities. Please notice something. The reward was consistent with the expansion. I gave you got 10 minutes. You made 10. I'm going to give you 10 cities. And I'm going to give you 10 cities based on the expansion of what I originally gave you. I gave you time and you expanded it from me. I gave you talent, you expanded it from me. I gave you treasures, you expanded it from me. And I'm going to reflect that, and I'm going to give you 10 cities. Now, heaven is not playing a harp for a zillion years. We're told next that the second guy comes. And the second guy says, Master, your mina, master, has made 5 minas. I have 50% increase. You got 5. I didn't get 10 like the first guy. I got 5. The master says, you are over 5 cities. Notice what he didn't say. Well done. He only said well done to the first guy because the first guy maximized the opportunities. Second guy was half-stepping. He doesn't get a well done. In other words, he could have done more, but he didn't. He was 50% there. And so he did not get accolades. It's like a person at work who goes over and above and the person at work who just does the basics. But he does get recognition in terms of a reward. He gets 5 cities, note, that is commensurate with his action. Now, please note thus far, stay with me here, that there is accountability to what was left them. In other words, and the reason why there was accountability is it wasn't their minas. They're servants and slaves. They belong to the master. See, the moment you lose sight that your time belongs to the master, the moment you lose sight that your talents belong to the master, the moment that you lose sight that your treasures belong to the master, you're not going to have anything to show because you're going to use it all for you. Because you become the master. And so, he comes and he holds account these 2. But then we're introduced to homeboy number 3. Another came saying, Master. Oh, now he talking right. I mean, he talking right. He's talking like a committed follower. He says masters. Like folk in church hollering out Jesus. You sound good. Master, his terminology was accurate. Here is your mina. Here's what you left me, which I kept put away in a handkerchief because I was scared. He says, I was afraid because you are an exacting man. You take what you did not lay down and you reap what you did not sow. In other words, you're hard to please. In other words, you have high expectations. In other words, your demands are not minimal. You expect significant involvement and investment. Master, you too serious. You too serious. And I didn't want to risk losing your minna. And so because I didn't want to risk losing it, I did actually nothing with it. Because it was too risky knowing how tough a guy you are. So let's look at this third guy. He's a servant. And he's got the right terminology, but he did nothing with the time, the talents, and the treasures except give back what he got. That's all he did. He gave back what he got. He said, here's your minna in a handkerchief. In other words, I'm not going to do anything with it. I was just concerned about not losing it. I was playing defense. I was concerned about not losing it. He said to him in verse 22, by your own words, I will judge you, you worthless slave. Do you know that I am an exacting man? Did you know that I'm an exacting man, taking up what I did not lay down, reaping where I did not sow? Then why did you not put my money in the bank? At least I would have collected some interest. You worthless slave. And so God, I got a minna. There's not much to show, but at least I got a little something. I went to church. He says, you worthless Christian. So what are we going to do with him, Lord? He says in verse 24, tell the bystanders to take the minas away from him and give it to the one who has the 10 minas. What's the principle? He gives the principle in verse. The people say, but master, the guy already has 10. He says, well, let me tell you the principle. I tell you that to everyone who has, more will be given, but from the one who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. You don't get credit just for being a servant. You're saved by grace. You don't get credit for that. That's all of God. So you don't get credit for being a Christian. You get credit for serving the master and using the time and the talents and the treasures that he has entrusted to you for his glory, to advance his kingdom, for the benefit of others, to his glory. That's what he credits. You don't get credit for going to church. You don't get credit for saying I accepted Jesus when I was 10 years old. He says you accepted me when you were 10. You're now 70. Let's discuss 60 years of time that I gave you, of talents that I gave you, of treasures that I gave you over that 60-year period of time. Let's talk about that. Some days they'll be minuscule, other days they'll be huge, but it's being available. Lord, if you want to borrow some of your time, you loan me. If you want to borrow some of your talents, you loan me. If you want to borrow some of your treasure, you loaned me. Then I am available today, not just to ask you to bless me. I'm available today for you to work through me to be a blessing to others and to build my account for glory. Bring me the rope. This red part of the rope represents your life and time. The rest of this rope is eternity. And you can't see where it ends. This red part of your rope is 50, 60, 70, 80, maybe 90 years. God has said from the point you were converted, I will measure how much you use this for that. Most of us use this for this. We go to high school, to go to college, to get a master's, maybe get a doctorate, and then look, if you spend all that education, you only got that much left to use it for. That's all you got. You spend 30, 40 years to building your career for the next few years for it to end. because you're on death row. You just need to know that. We're all on death row. God says, I'm going to measure this by how it impacted this, and this never ends. So if you live for this, this is all you get. If you put all your marbles in the time basket and you stand before God with that one minna that you did not invest, you're losing. The reward for the inconvenience is so much greater. What God says, if I can get you to see the eternal perspective, the reward for the inconvenience is going to be so much greater if you live this life with that life in mind.